Take a sudden bankruptcy or a deep personal betrayal. In these moments, the external world shatters, leaving two people standing in the exact same wreckage. For the first person, the event is a terminal blow. They experience a total psychological collapse, spiraling into a despair that makes any form of recovery feel impossible. But the second person, facing the same ruin, discovers an internal pivot point. They adapt to the harsh reality and eventually find a way to thrive that they hadn't imagined before. If the physical facts, the lost savings or the broken trust, are identical for both, then the event itself cannot be the sole cause of the long-term suffering. It suggests that the weight we carry doesn't come from the objective facts of what happened, but from the invisible story we begin to write the moment the dust settles. The human mind is biologically incapable of leaving a tragedy unexplained. We are wired to demand a meaning for every painful experience we encounter. But when we are paralyzed by a crisis, we often fail to consciously choose what that meaning should be. We leave the narrative space completely empty. When we leave that vacuum, an automatic mechanism in the brain takes over the controls. Left to its own devices, it almost always fills the silence with a self-destructive narrative. The difference between being destroyed by an event and being forged by it depends entirely on who is holding the pen in that internal space. This narrative space is governed by the split architecture of the mind. We typically identify with our conscious thoughts, the part of us we perceive as the self. Think of this as the captain. It's responsible for surface-level observation and logic, but it only represents about 7% of your total processing power. Below the surface lies the engine, the subconscious mind. This is the remaining 93% of your cognitive makeup. The engine is powerful, but it doesn't think. It doesn't filter or judge. It simply takes raw data and executes instructions with blind mechanical force. We believe we are often just passengers being driven by the unyielding momentum of the engine room. But if the 93% can't think for itself, where does it get the instructions that run our lives? It is programmed by everything we consume: societal expectations, media, and unhealed past traumas. These external inputs write the code the engine follows. Take a neutral event. You call a friend and they don't pick up. Your conscious mind sees the missed call, but the engine immediately scans its programmed database. It bypasses logic and automatically outputs a toxic meaning. I am not important enough for a callback. The pain that follows doesn't come from the silent phone. It comes from the story the subconscious engine injected into that silence. We fall into a cycle of suffering because we assume we are the ones consciously creating these toxic thoughts. We fail to see the gap between the thought and the thinker. These automated toxic thoughts are just temporary weather. They are simply like dark clouds drifting across a field of awareness. You are not the storm. You are the sky. You are the silent, vast awareness that exists behind the weather, completely unaffected by the movement of the clouds. We have spent so much time staring at the turbulence that we have forgotten the sky is even there. Suffering only works when we are convinced that the temporary weather of the mind is our permanent identity. To break that cycle, you have to step out of the engine's momentum and return to the role of the observer. This starts with finding the silent gap that exists for a fraction of a second between two consecutive thoughts. Staying in that microscopic silence severs the link to the 93%. It pauses the engine and allows you to reclaim the narrative. This shifts your relationship with your own mind. Your thoughts become temporary guests, and you return to being the host of your own reality. You cannot defeat the 93% engine with conscious logic or simple positive thinking. The engine doesn't listen to arguments. It only responds to a shift in the nervous system, one built through the repetition of small, deliberate habits and a rigorous practice of gratitude. In this context, faith functions as a physiological state of safety, a deep-seated security woven into the subconscious architecture. From this perspective, the physical world is no longer a place of punishment. It becomes a neutral environment, designed to test and expand your awareness. When hardship arrives, you aren't the panic or the pain. You are the untouchable observer holding the pen, ready to write a story that makes you stronger.